Okay, I'm just gonna let everybody kind of like trickle in and
Okay.
then we can get started. Okay.
Make sure all my Zoom is out of the way.
All right, I see a couple more people connecting and so I guess I'll just we'll jump right in. So thank you everybody for joining us. I am with GReminders. My name is Ziera Burkett. I am the partner relationship manager with GReminders. For those who don't know, GReminders is the only automated scheduling and reminders platform built for advisors. We directly integrate with the biggest CRMs in the financial sphere. With me today, I'm delighted as always to introduce our guest speaker, the Manager of Strategy and Implementation, Catherine Beltran of Simplicity Ops. Simplicity Ops is an RAA operations consulting company that helps advisors streamline their operational processes. So Catherine, thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to just let you take it from here.
Sounds good. I know we've got a lot to cover in what I would consider a short amount of time, just because I talk for forever and a day. So we'll cover quite a bit in the GReminders functions, everything like that. And we'll do a little sneak peek into the CRMs just so you can see how it all really ties nicely together. So as Zia, or Zia, as I always like to call her, mentioned, my name is Catherine Beltran. You can call me Kat, KT, anything along those lines. I'm located out of sunny Phoenix, Arizona, and my main thing is just trying to make advisors and admin and anyone else who's in their office just have their lives easier. How can we simplify the process? How can we expedite things, all while keeping our sanity, right? That's always the main goal. So really when it comes to it, today we're going to dive heavily, and I'm going to stress that, really into this concept of multiple event types. Why this is so important is because that's where it really stems into having those different workflows, potentially activity templates launching, really maintaining and controlling your calendar, which is ultimately the goal you should be achieving. I feel like that's one of the biggest things we always hear is like, my calendar controlled me and not the other way around. It's like, I feel that pain. I get it. And I always want to help, again, make it so that way it's the opposite. So that's where we start off with this whole concept of event types. Now, as a warning, I'm going to kind of slide back and forth between my PowerPoint and the GReminders, as well as Redtail and WealthBox. You can, again, see a couple different things, but starting off with this concept of event types. So I'm going to sweep on over here real quick. So here I am, I'm logged into our demo database. You might see some weird things in here. Keep that in mind. Again, this is my demo database, so you should not have like multiple CRMs linked up. But for us today, I do. So just keep that in a fair little seed head, thought in the back of your head there. But event types. This is really where you should come in here and think about your different processes. Specifically, let's just start off with the sales process. What does that look like to you? Chances are high it's not just like a one call and then we hope for the best and we do nothing else after that. And if that is your process, I'm incredibly jealous. That's super simple. That's not real world though. This is really where it comes into multiple scenarios. So we start off with like an introductory call or initial consultation or initial kickoff. Again, whatever you kind of call it, that's not where we're focusing. It's really just that initial, hey, who are you? What are you looking to achieve? How can I help you? Then we can get into this whole process of really giving that presentation, really bringing them on board and signing, getting them into our database, and then finally wrapping it up with that whole welcome aboard. You're now with us, your family. So yours, again, might have more meetings, yours might have less, but ultimately you should have an event type for every single one of those type of meetings. And I know someone's sitting there going like, Catherine, you expect me to build what? Like how many of these? Think of it as you build it once and you use it many. If you solve your problems now, down the road, it's 10 times easier and faster to get, again, that communication and that process rolling. So we'll go into, like I said, a deep, deep dive into events here. I'm just going to start off with that intro call so you guys can see really what this looks like and the benefits you get from it. So I'm going to just click into this one. I feel like this is one that's pretty universal across the board. I feel like everyone has some sort of intro call. And again, you want to keep it simple. So name it obvious. Don't come in here and just be like meeting one. No, again, name it what your actual scenario is. Your location can differ. If you are a Zoom user, perfect. You can put that in here. If you have all of these in person, great. Put that address in here. If this is always a phone call, put the phone call in here. Now, I like to, again, just kind of hover over here so you can see those different options. This is going to be based on your specific scenarios, but whatever you do most of the time, put that first. That's kind of my little pro tip for you. Whatever you have first is what it defaults to for that radio dial. So if 9 out of 10 times it's a phone call, put the invitee phone first. And this is actually what will pull in that, again, prospects number. If you meet by Google Meets, Teams, Zoom, whatever platform I'm blanking on that could possibly be in here, you put that first if that's most common. For something like a annual review, where that's more likely to be in person, put your physical address in here first, and then Zoom or whatever else after that. It's just kind of, again, giving those options, and I'll show you what that looks like. Further down the road is where we start to get into this whole calendar concept. So if you're a Wealthbox user and you use Microsoft, most likely it's going to be your Microsoft account here. If you're a Redtail user and you're going to use Redtail's calendar as the default, guess what? You're going to make the Redtail default calendar. Again, this is really going to be based off of your specific CRM and your choice. Just because you are a Redtail user doesn't necessarily mean you always use the Redtail calendar. I would love it if that were the case, but I also am under no illusion that sometimes Microsoft is the choice that you pick. Going a little further down, this is where I'm going to slide on back for a second, pause, and just give one little tip before we really get into everything that makes up what I'd say controlling your calendar and your time, is how can you make your life easier when it comes to these event types initially? Build it on a template level. So in GReminders, you have technically two options when it comes to event types. So if you're looking over here and you're feeling like, oh my God, what do you mean two? One right here, one right here. If you do this on the template level, this quite literally is the definition of building it once, using it many. If you have, let's say, 5 people on a team and the event itself looks exactly the same, it's just based on your calendar and your Zoom and your preferences, you can actually have the event type template built once and applied across the board. I'd recommend that. Chances are high someone on here is going to be like the lead builder. If they do that once, they don't have to go into each user profile to build the exact same event types. So unless you just really want to waste time, I wouldn't recommend that. Go the event type template instead. So let's go again, talk about this whole time. So again, I said earlier, calendar should be something that you control and not the other way around. This is really where you're taking that into account. So think about the different meetings. Again, you have an intro call, the discovery, an annual review. If you just think about that alone, your intro calls tend to be shorter than your reviews. This is where you want to keep that in here. Buffers as well. Is it possible that every time you have a review with a certain someone, it goes a lot longer than intended? Put that little buffer so you don't have it backing up right next to each other. I like to have buffers in mind just because, again, I might have just had like the world's most insane meeting and I feel drained from it. Give a little cushion so that way you can prepare for the next one. And then how many of those types of meetings can you do in a day? Think about it. If I had to do 5 reviews in a day, I'm gonna be wiped. There's no way I'm gonna do that. But maybe 5 intro calls? Yeah, I could probably handle that without losing my sanity. So again, this is where we're really gonna talk about that whole accordion based on that actual event type. So how far out do you want to book? How early can someone book? So if you sent them link today, are you cool with them booking just 2 hours from now? Or do you need to give it a couple days to really prep for it? How long is that meeting expected to take? And then we get into, again, some personal preferences. How many times or how many of this event could we have in a day? What's the buffer we want to have? Can we have it where it's a specific setting, or do you want GReminders to really take the lead on this? That's where this is coming in. So again, this particular section to me is where it heavily differs for every single event type, because it's going to be geared towards the meetings that you have on your calendar. Now, when you get further, this is where I CRM geek out. This is where we can get into that whole meeting type and meeting category. So if, and I would recommend this, we want to, again, have specific settings come over in our Redtail or our Wealthbox calendars. This is where we're coming in here and labeling it so that way it comes over nice and organized. And I have one less thing to do on the other side. I think we can all agree it's really exciting if there's less for us to do down the road. Which brings us to further down. I'm not going to bore you to death by setting your availability. I think you could figure that concept out. It's really just based on, hey, what hours do you want to work? But we get into really that customization with the whole form questions and post. This again is another section I'll usually hear when it comes to prospecting. Hey, I want to capture where they came from. You could put in a source field in here, or hey, there's specific questions before a discovery meeting or an annual review that I always like to have answered. Perfect. Put that here. This can talk with your CRMs to capture that data. So that way you're not again having to send all these follow-up emails just to ask the same questions. So that's again where I'm going to say, think about your process. Where can I cut those extra tasks in maybe a workflow or in our follow-ups and just throw them up in here? Further down is where you're really going to start to get like the asterisks of nuances. If you are a Redtail user and you are using the Redtail calendar, do not have this checked off. What this will do is it'll actually put them as an attendee, not a linked contact, an attendee in that, which means any changes you make to that description, will send an email with that information. That's not exactly ideal. So again, that's for Redtail and Redtail calendar users only. If you use Microsoft, you actually do want this. So again, if you are an Outlook user, this will actually add them as an attendee, so it sends that calendar invite for them. So again, just depends on really what platform you're using and the goal. Here's where I get really, really excited. And I know that sounds so weird because I get so jazzed when it comes to really making things our own. Variables. So if you like having it where it says the prospecting client's name and your name, cool, you don't have to touch a single thing here. If you're like me, though, where I'd like to see what type of meeting is blocking my calendar, I can actually use this variable right here in this instead. So again, you can get really crafty when it comes to setting things up. It's all about user preference. This is what I like to see. So when I'm looking at my calendar, yes, there's a different color based on that type, but I can easily read, oh, here I am with John Smith : introductory call. And I have that right there. If payments apply, you can do that. That's something I've never had to worry about. So I'm going to bypass that here. Thank you page. I actually like to just leave it as the default because then our prospector client can see exactly what time they booked. So if they have one of those squirrel moments where they're like, I have no idea why I did that, they can immediately fix that. But again, I just like to leave it. And we get to finally what I'd say is the gold standard, what we've all been waiting for, the possibility of launching workflows. So again, really when we have something like this set up to work with our processes in our CRMs, the whole concept should help, again, really automate and expedite the scenario. So if I have an intro call, I send that link, that client or that prospect, well, prospect for an intro call, schedules that time, it goes to my calendar, it automatically links the contact or creates a brand new one. And then it launches my workflow at the same time. It's like I have this dreamland wish that's finally come true. All of those extra clicks that I'm so used to doing over the years go away. So if the goal is to have it, and I'm going to pop into both of these so you can see what this looks like. If the goal is to have it where it automatically links to the contact, it shows up as an activity for Redtail, it automatically launches our workflows right over here as well, pulls in those dates. That's, again, really achievable. Same concept over here. There's that workflow. It goes ahead, links it up to that contact. I have it in here. It goes over to my events. I could see it on my calendar. It's all there. Again, I don't have to do anything extra than send the email saying, hey, book some time on my calendar here. One extra little hidden gem, and it's going to segue me almost perfectly into something else that's really customizable, is this concept of reminders. I mean, it's in the name, like it's really there. We should have it where it's nice and functional, but we can have it where, again, it pulls our logo, it bolds certain features in here if we need to reschedule. But if you're looking at this here, it's a note on my Wealthbox contact record. It's a note when I look at the contact record in Redtail. So again, it's all connecting everything. So if I happen to have a coworker who's wondering, hey, did this ever gonna happen? Is this happening a thing? They can always come in and see all of those same functions without me touching a single thing outside of sending that link. So again, it's really just taking your time, setting it up. And if you get all of these features the way you need it to be, this is where you have those automations that you're looking for to make it where it's a 1, 2, 3 step and you really only did one thing. Just to wrap up the event types, and then we'll talk again a little bit about a couple of other features. Again, I'd always have it as active unless you're in the process of modifying it, then I could understand taking it out of that. I like to control my links. You can technically just have everything on like a home page. I like to have specifics when it applies. So if I met with someone and they're just not a good fit, I'm not going to move on to that discovery meeting. I don't want that to be an option for them to book. So again, I like to have that control, and I use email templates within both Redtail and Wealthbox to do that. So again, I just have it where it's just automatically happening. And again, you also have the ability to basically control this event type. So not just me or anyone in your organization. I'm very much of a loving sharing, so I leave mine as yes, anyone. So let's take a step back here for a second. I want to really, really reiterate this whole event types versus the event type templates. If you build it on the event type that's up here under scheduling, think of it as it's only applicable in your user settings. If you build it where it's an event type template, and I purposely put 2 in here so you could see it, you're going to see it says managed when you're even looking at your own. That's where you have those different event types showing up, and you can limit it to specific admins, to standard users. Again, you have the ability to control everything that's in here. But let's talk about reminder templates. This to me is where I probably got super, super excited. It brought me back to like, I'm going to age myself here, like MySpace days where you can get customized, you use all of those variables. This is really where you're going to take your time. So that way, again, you can eliminate all of those extras. Make sure we send this follow up, all of that good stuff. You can get really crafty in here. And Lord knows, everyone knows I do. So if I come in here, you're going to see I've got all of this coding. It may look really scary, but again, how it really looks is it has those reminders. It gives the ability to reschedule and cancel for any reason. But if there is no Zoom meeting, this would definitely not appear. So that's where it's that exciting is you have, again, more of that accordion. How much do I need to include in here? How much can I actually add in here? Is it too much? What does it look like? My biggest tip always, though, is preview it. There are many times where I've come in here and I've gotten way out of control and then it didn't make sense. Like it was just a bunch of jargon. So make sure you hit that preview. And that's where, again, you're going to double check that setting. Coming back, I'm going to take a look at like the initial one as well. So very similar concept. Again, you can come in here, pick the invitee first name, Zoom link if it's applicable, but you also have this ability to add it to that calendar that you also have as a variable in this section. So again, when it comes to those reminders, you have the different options, you have the different methods. You can choose for it to be an email, a text message, or a phone call. How soon out do you want it to do it? How any criteria you need to have in here. So again, it really just depends on what you're trying to achieve. But ultimately, I want you to think about how can I save future self some time and sanity? Reminders tend to be that kind of cure-all. I will say there is a liquid template version of this or liquid variables. So if you are super, super nerdy like I am, where you can get real, real crafty, you can throw in bullet points, throw in a bunch of things. It just depends on, of course, time and what you're trying to achieve. So this is one we really like to, again, share with everyone, which is going to be a shameful plug for kind of the extra. After this webinar, we're going to send out basically what I'd call like a best practice or kind of cheat sheet. It has this exact coding. So if there's certain things that you really like the bolding or that if event applicable, copy and paste it. You have that available for you. Don't reinvent the wheel if you don't have to. So again, keep a lookout for that piece. So event types, we've gone over event type templates, reminder templates. Again, why is this all so important? It's again, trying to control your day. You're taking the lead to make sure everything really should go as it's intended to. So control your calendar, have the event parameters designed around you and your time. Stop making the exceptions and then overwhelming yourself. So this is, again, just kind of wrap up that whole concept of automating it. If you set up those event types and you have those different ones in there, this is where you can then unlock the proper meeting types and categories. So when you're looking at your calendar, you're looking on your contact, you have it exactly as it needs to be. You connect automatically to the contact record. So again, how we were looking at it over here in Redtail and Wealthbox, it's connected to my contact record automatically. I'm not coming in here after the fact like you might have been used to before. So if anyone had used other scheduling systems where it didn't talk directly to either CRMs, you no longer have to worry about that. I know that was a step I used to always have to do. Send the calendar, wait for it to come over, link the contact, add in all the extra details. And it was fine. It's just tedious and it's extra clicks that I love to avoid, which you do now. If the contact does not exist, that's where it starts to get a little bit murky. It depends on, again, how you set up your settings, but you can have it where it automatically creates the contact for you. So again, just think about your process. If you have a way to book an initial consultation or an introductory call on your website and someone does that, that contact immediately comes on over. You didn't have to add them. You see it on your calendar. You could do everything you have. Again, with all that extra time, you have saved at least, I'd say, probably a good 10 clicks every single time that happens. And if anyone knows me, they know I like to save my time, and some extra clicks is the way to do it. So again, automating it, you solved yourself with adding a contact or linking contact and launching a workflow. The workflow, the biggest thing I'm going to stress with this one, and I'm going to give you guys a little bit of shock because again, I have both of them on, so it's a little bit painful when we're looking at it. Yours should not be like this. I will tell you that right now. But when you have it, you have the list of every active workflow in your CRM. So again, keep in mind, mine is a hot mess just because, again, it's my demo database. I like to show everything. But in here, you've got your Wealthbox workflow templates, everything that you've got built in there. You'll see it exactly like this. If you have where there's opportunity template, I won't talk about that in a second. I'll give a little shout out to that. Redtail workflow templates a little bit further. If you had both of them enabled, I don't recommend that, but again, you did. And again, you also have the ability to launch activity templates and opportunities. So I'm going to give a little shout out here. It's not necessarily directly related to our concept today, but the best thing that I can stress when it comes to this whole integration between GReminders and the CRMs is that it's always evolving. It's always trying to make as many of these processes simplified and automatic. So opportunities is the next realm that will have that ability. So again, think about your sales process. If you automatically add them to your opportunities because you want to keep track of where they're at, how much, all of that good stuff, that's another function that's happening here. So I want to just give a mini little shout out to it because I'm really excited where that could take it. Because again, that's even more clicks that you could prevent. And just think about it. If that's someone's full job of just operating and maintaining your pipelines, you're making theirs a heck of a lot easier. And I'm sure no one's upset by that. So again, when you have those workflows, make sure that they're intended the way that you want them. I know that sounds obvious, but you would be surprised. Just because you get templates imported from us or from your CRM or from a third-party outsource, you still want to tailor them to your process. So that way, again, it is as streamlined as possible. If you just accept like a default workflow, it might get you in a good starting place, but then you're consistently going to have to update that live workflow. And that's just, again, not ideal. You want to make sure that you have all of those different tasks, all of those different steps, really the way you need them. So it, again, just launches and launches and launches, and you have it so smoothly and you just work through it. That's the best thing. It keeps you consistent and accountable.
I think it's also, not to cut you off really quick, but
no, good. I was going to pause.
You brought up such a good point with workflows and how crazy that list can get, even just for an advisory with only one CRM integrated. Yeah. That's a free form text field. So you can search your individual workflow instead of having to go through, scroll the really long list. You can just search introductory or discovery, annual review. So that way you're not having to do all of this scrolling. It can become cumbersome and really long. So just a little tidbit to, again, creating a bit of efficiency.
I like it. All right, let me pause here just because I know I have talked a mile a minute and that's very standard of me. Did we have any questions that have come in that we could address?
We had a couple different questions, and I've just kind of been trying to chat with them in the background as we've been going through, but it's mainly been about things, as a Redtail user, Do we have to use the red tail calendar to be able to utilize the workflow, contact creation options, that kind of thing?
Gotcha.
I explained there, you do not need to use the red tail calendar. If you guys are red tail users and you're using Outlook or you're using Google, you still get that option. You still have that opportunity to use those activity templates, opportunities in workflow launching, contact creation, writing to UDFs, everything within the integration, because
Yeah.
those two things are different within the GReminders platform. You can integrate your CRM and then you can integrate your calendar. And so for the red tail calendar, that's a bit different than just the CRM as a whole.
You got it. Yep. Now, I will always stress, everyone who knows me knows that I like to keep all of my stuff in the CRM, or I should say as much as possible in the CRM. I'm under no illusion that we sometimes need a third-party source, but just keep in mind that ultimately your goal for everything that you're doing is to build that contact history. So when you have it in there, you're keeping account of every single meeting type you have, when the last time you met with that client, you had that in here. So again, I know I sound like a broken record, but I'm going to keep saying it and stressing it here. That is the point of having those different event types. You are controlling what has been done and what still needs to be done for those contacts. To what I had said earlier, if you met with a prospect, and we all have, we've met with someone who are just like, "Ooh, I don't have the warm and fuzzies. We're not gonna mesh." Don't proceed forward and hope that it changes until here you are 6 years down the road going, it's them. And then you've just got like, horror music playing, lightning crashing. You are in control of, again, everything that is part of your day-to-day, life. So if, again, your process is less meetings, fantastic. If yours is more meetings, also fantastic. It, again, is really just taking you through everything that you do to build the best client experience that you physically can. And that's always it's always like the hidden, but it's always my ultimate goal is just how can I best serve them? And how can I keep my life nice and safe and sanitary and, everything under the sun? How can I make it all a full rounded experience? And that's where this comes into play. So yes, you do have to build quite a bit initially, but I think it's one of those, short-term pain, long-term gain. This is where you're really going to come in and say, okay, here's how it's going to pay off. One more thing here, because I know someone's probably sitting here again going, so Catherine, does that mean every single time I want to schedule or have someone schedule an intro call or an implementation call or a new client, I have to come in here and copy the link? Not necessarily. So again, I said it earlier, you can always build out different email templates within your CRM that already include your link. So if I happen to have someone who needs to come in for a review, I have that link already embedded in my email template, ready to roll. I just send it right on out. And again, it takes you a grand total of 10 seconds to do that. That's the ultimate, again, accomplishment. Even think about it like on a bulk level. If you build out that email template to include that link and you've got 43 people that need to come in for a review in this next month, you pull that list. Hopefully you take our tips and use keywords or tags to pull that list. You pull up that bulk email, you pull that template, you send it off. I can shamelessly say I have counted this, and it does quite literally take you 38 seconds to do that. Everyone has 38 seconds. Not everyone has, 3 hours. And that's what we're trying to, again, help save some time, get it out and get going. One other thing, though, for any of our Google Chrome users, you also have that plugin. So if anyone happens to use Chrome as their main default, you can have a plugin that has all of these links available. So again, you could just always copy there and send it out as well, just in case that's the route. Or if someone's calling in and you want to book on their behalf, again, you could pull open that link from that Chrome pop-up or from this page as well. So that's, again, ultimately why I spend so much time making sure these are built the way we want them, is because if I take it now, future self is going to thank me. It may not seem like it as you're in the thick of building it, but your future self will seriously thank you for taking the time. All right, I have talked for forever. So let me make sure I leave some time for questions. Anything else that could pop in when it comes to GReminders, Redtail, or Wealthbox?
Outside of that, so far, while we wait, if anybody else has any other questions, simple things. Can GReminders look at availability on multiple calendars?
Yes, technically it can. So again, forgive me, mine is going to be a little wonky. So if I come on over to this manage calendars, you can see here it says connect another calendar. You'll pop up, you'll get your choices here. If you look at mine, I've actually left on my Outlook and my Redtail calendar. You could choose which one you want as your primary. So that's again where it comes into that whole question we heard earlier, like, do I have to use the Redtail calendar if I am a Redtail? Nope, you just pick that right here as far as that primary. But right up here at the top, you have this whole send reminders and check for availability. I have it where it does in fact check multiple. Again, just because of the way I have mine set up. But yeah, good question.
And you can also integrate up to 5 calendars per user. So that's also kind of a positive. And then did I hear this correctly that we're able to send voice reminders? How does this work?
Ooh, I'm gonna
It's
let
a
you
good
answer that
question.
one.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
when you're building your reminders, you have the option to elect a phone call. So this is going to be an automated message under, yeah,
I was like, let me get there.
that's okay. That's okay. And you can select phone call. And then if you scroll down, of course, our timing and things like that are still the same, but you can variable your phone call message the same way that you would your emails or your text messages. That variable list populates for you. We like to make those as easy as possible because I know that this part of the GReminders build out can look a bit cumbersome, maybe a bit intimidating when we first start looking at it, thinking, oh my gosh, I have to know HTML markup language. You don't. Instead, it's a quick drop down list. Most people rely on this over those liquid template codes, things like that we were talking about prior. But you can always, we keep links down at the bottom of this. So just a quick little plug where it says voice template help or help with variables. You can always click those. That'll bring you to articles on our webpage that give you actual templates of code that you can plug in and tells you exactly how that's going to populate for you. So yep, it's an automated kind of robocall, if you will, that you can define in your phone call message body text here. And you just elect that, and then your clients and prospects can receive a phone call, which is kind of a neat little feature because I think oftentimes we see with automated schedulers, it's either an email or a text message. So kind of a little unique thing sometimes I see advisors using most often for maybe like that initial or even that follow-up, which is kind of random, but stuff like that.
Well, I'm even thinking like sometimes if we have clients where I will say it's mostly a generational thing,
Yeah.
it could be a very valuable solution. So if it's like that, they do not use email, text messaging, not even a thing. This could be that solution you might be looking for as well. And just remember that you can keep in different criterias as well. But to Z's point, unless you are extreme like I am, I would stick with just kind of the variables you have in here. I like to go off the rails. Everyone, again, who knows me more than 5 minutes can figure that out, that I just get way too curious for my own mind. But this is a very healthy list to pick from. Go through it and just see what you really like. But I would try to limit it to this list. And I
Absolutely.
did see a question here where it's the automatically update the status. So let me head to the integrations. I'm just going to pick on this one because I know this is coming in from like a Redtail perspective. Let me get down here really, really fast. So when we set up integrations, you can pick which activity types you have in your system to look as far as like what's available, what should count. So like I'm going to just hone in on this one. I always take task off just because a majority, I can almost safely say like 10 out of 10 times, my tasks go in as an all day. I do not want your reminders to block off all day, every day. That's not the point of this one. So I take off tasks, especially like I said, when it's that all day, it can happen at any point in time. Scrolling down, scroll. Here's that beautiful little gem. If we have it where it's automatically creating a contact, we can have it where it automatically sets that status or that category based on your managed database list in your CRM. So again, if we want to come in as a prospect, a lead, that would be the most two logical answers here. If I have specific categories, of hot, cold, lost, or active, pending, things like that, you can list this where it automatically does it for you too. So it is exciting stuff. I know that question was happening.
We had another good one come in. When setting availability, is it at a user level or is it at the event type level? Example, I only do intro calls every second Friday.
Fantastic question, actually. So you do have your normal working hours, but then in your actual event type individually, you can also set your availability. So if I were to come in here and say, you know what, for this particular type, I only want to have it where it's specific days or specific times, you can control that. So if it's only like, hey, I want to have this date available, I only want to do Monday or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. Again, you can get really, really tailored by the event types. If it's more just in general, I always have 9 available, 11 a.m. available, 2 p.m. available, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I would say set that up on the working hours. So you do have like 2 concepts when it comes to controlling that, but you can have specific by types as well.
To expand on that, that is also applicable when we're thinking about event type templates. Those templates are, while they are accessible, if you will, from an organizational standpoint, we're building that template once, but then we're assigning it to specific profiles on the GReminders platform. So advisors would have, a set of event types, and maybe your CSAs or CSRs have a set of event types. Then you can go into that event type and put your own individual availability if that section is unlocked. So that way, so technically user level and event type are sort of the same thing when we think about setting availability.
Yep.
And
I like this
last one,
question.
yeah, kind of interesting. Can you choose more than one reminder method?
Yes, actually. Especially if we're thinking like, I'm just going to pull a scenario of, let's say someone booked a review. That might actually, I'm going to hopefully that is not booked within a week. You gave yourself some time to prep for it. Usually it's like a good 2 weeks out, 5 days minimum is my kind of safe bet. But if you have it where it's like, okay, I want a 1 week reminder, I want a 24-hour reminder, I want a 1 hour reminder, I want a 10-minute before reminder, you can again, however many you want, and you could pick those different ones. So like I have an initial one, I have a 24-hour one, but if I wanted one like, hey, before, let's have them do the voice memo instead, by all means, go for it. It's really up here when you get to pick this. So if it's like a send a reminder prior to your appointment time, if you come down here, this is where it's giving quite a few options. So if you wanted it just like a couple minutes, a couple hours, couple days, a long time, chances are you're not going to touch these ones, hopefully not booking that far out. Again, you can pick those different settings, but definitely I've seen it where people do an email and a text message just to make sure that they're covering their bases.
That's extremely customizable.
Yes. The one other, and this is probably my nuance, so you might differ, you might say the same. When it comes to more so the text message to me, I do like to set those auto replies and have it where it's specific. So like if they do confirm yes, it's just a quick, simple, great. We look forward to seeing you then. If anything has changed, please call our office and then include the phone number. Or if it's a no, immediately have it where it sends that rescheduling link. So that way it's not just sitting there going, great, I don't know if we met with them. You're still controlling it. So that's my one tip in particular with the text message. I find that just a little bit more valuable than in terms of like an email. But again,
Absolutely.
I would take that into consideration here too.
I think in general as well, the auto replies really create a sense of personability with your client or prospect. It
Yeah.
takes the idea of this as like an automated system they're just chatting with, and makes it a bit more personal to them because you can put whatever you want here, and you'll
Yeah.
also see your variable boxes again, those populate, so you can input those and template the heck out of it. But yeah, I think it just makes it a bit more personalized and tailored to your client or your prospect. And I love always recommending, as you said, the reschedule link variable for when they say no, they can't make it. Well, what a great way to not lose that potential lead, right? Or get on your client's calendar. We don't want to miss that annual review, or we definitely don't want to miss that introductory appointment. It kind of gives us one more bit of oomph before, maybe having to actually manually reach out to them. So kind of a fail safe, I think, in that way as well.
Yeah. So again, that's that last little piece that I would really recommend. If there's one section in particular that I'd really kind of whiteboard out, I'm going to use that terminology from our workflows, but it is your reminders. What do you want it to say? I've had someone write like a novel. There was a lot of bullet points, but again, it was specifics for the review. And it was reminding them like, hey, here's what we're going to be talking about. Here's what we'd love for you to bring. Here's how you can send those documents to us. And while it was lengthy, it again had everything they needed. So coming from like a client perspective, I would love to have received that. So again, I have my expectations and I have my to-do list before I even have to show up. So again, think about those things. You can also have follow-ups in here. And again, I know just even from my own experience making a lot of workflows, I live in workflows anymore. How many of those extra steps and tasks can I take away by having it automated? Again, that should be a goal of yours to help just expedite everything, control everything, save that time that none of us have enough of. This is really where it could be helpful. So take your time when it comes to reminder templates. All right, well, that is all I had. Like I said, I knew I threw a lot at you guys, so hopefully I helped just kind of set up those different expectations. Hopefully got you really interested in how this could save you some, like I said, some extra time, some extra clicks. If you have more questions, obviously, you can always reach out to me. You can always reach out to our info or support at greminders.com. If you are not part of our RIA operators community, I would heavily recommend it. That's where we always post anything. And honestly, it's a good way to network with other people on our industry. We have partners in there. We have other advisors in there. It's just, again, a really open space. But thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Catherine, thank you so much. As always, I love getting to sit down and chat with you. I think this is actually our first webinar together. But I spend so much time with Catherine all the time. She's literally just the most knowledgeable person, I feel like, whenever it comes to anything operational, and subject matter expert with Redtail. Like, I always come away knowing more than when I went into all of our conversations. So thank you so much for sitting with me.
Thank you.
I think that this was wonderful, and thank you everybody for joining and sticking around. It was really great. I loved all the questions and I loved the conversation. So thank you, Catherine, and I look forward to doing the next one.
Agreed. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you guys. Bye.